Oh, I've got 3 words that say in front of me, you are live, which is wonderful. Good evening, everyone. Welcome to my study. Welcome to the 86th edition of the On The Ball podcast, which we will be recording live during this very session. I took a lot of time trying to scratch around for some subjects to talk about, but we'll have a look. Who have we got on tonight? Well, that's who we've got on tonight. Look at that. Steve's here. Dan Brigham's here. Ryan Livermore's here for his debut. My old mucker from the old mustard days. How exciting. So that's who we've got on. I imagine what we'll be talking about. We'll do a plug on the podcast, but actually we're going to do another one of these tomorrow night at 8:00, and that's going to be kind of a Daniel Farke legacy. Let's reminisce about Daniel Farke kind of a podcast, which I think we'd all love to do. And if you don't, just do something else, go away. But if you do, join us. So that will be lovely. We're going to do that tomorrow live at 8:00. I think we're going to have Chris Gorham on for that as well. So that will be lovely. Keep an eye out for that. I'll mention it on the podcast as well, obviously. But we will be addressing pressing concerns, I'm sure. But the key point is get your messages and comments in if you wish tonight. We will pick off some of them tomorrow night when we go into the Daniel Farke legacy and story and things. We will make a proper effort of going through all your comments and maybe getting a lot more of them thrown in and reading them out and having a proper readout session. We'll do bits and pieces tonight, but maybe not many. So don't get disappointed if we don't read out many comments tonight. But yeah, I reckon with that all done, we crack on. A quick warning, I've not corrected any of the stings, so they're going to be just as loud as they were last week. But, I've got 2 weeks now and not much going on, so I'm sure we'll sort them out from here. But if everyone's happy, are you all happy? Good. Right, in that case, then, let me find some branding. I've got my script. I've got some water. Let's crack on with the show. I am so ready for this off about 5 hours sleep and 3 coffees. Let's go. Boom. Hello and welcome to the 86th edition of On The Ball, the Norwich City podcast that left early on Saturday to beat the traffic. Did we miss much? I'm Michael Bailey. I cover the Canaries for The Athletic, and I hope this finds you safe and well. On the way, that's all, Farks. Bees stung in the Canos. And have you got your job interview yet? We will work through all that and more with our guests this fine evening. They are Norwich number one chief at NCFCnumbers, also known as our very own Steve Sanders.
Hello, Michael.
We also have former Norwich City head of content and program editor. He'd have been having a busy time if he was still in his job now, Mr. Daniel Brigham.
Hi, Michael.
And I am delighted to say, making his On The Ball debut, my old mustard TV mucker and big Norwich City fan, Ryan Livermore.
Hello, Michael. Thank you for having me.
Absolute pleasure. And you've passed the first test by saying hello at the right moment. So that is wonderful. Thanks for joining us all, guys. Much appreciated. We'll get stuck into all the stuff in a bit, of course. But how are we first? Steve, how are you?
I am very well, very excited and pleased to be on this particular one. It feels like for 2 reasons, really. Obviously, we've got so much to discuss after weeks of quite thin gruel, really, where we've basically just been saying the same thing over and over. It feels like we can have something different to say.
They were great pods, by the way.
Okay, I'll speak for myself there, if not anyone else. But also because I know you've been really busy and sleep deprived. Because you've had so much to do this weekend, and that normally results in a completely mad and slightly chaotic pod. So that's
nice.
I'm hoping for that this week as well.
This was entirely the quickest amount of preparation I've ever done on the podcast, and I can assure you that some of them have been pretty quick in the past. So there we go. Daniel, I'm calling you Daniel tonight for no apparent reason. How are you?
I'm good, Mike. I'm going to be calling you Mike for no apparent reason.
Okay, I apologise immediately. Did you have a nice restful weekend?
Yep, bouncing from the wind still.
Are you? Is anyone bouncing from the win? I sort of forgot there was a win. Yeah, good point. Good.
Well, it's nice to mention that we did win at the weekend, because I guess that's probably going to be submerged slightly by the other news that emerged on Saturday.
Well, I've got that saved for part 3. So yeah, we'll talk about a win at some point. Ryan, welcome.
Hello there. Thank you for having me, guys.
How are you been? How are you?
Oh, I'm all over the place after this weekend. We've sort of been talking about this for weeks, haven't we? And I had all prepped what I was going to say, deconstruct the performance, and then 7:30 on Saturday, bam, all out the window. Don't know what's going to happen tonight, but let's just have fun, yeah?
Oh, I love him. Brilliant. Well said, Ryan. Well, I tell you what, let's crack on. Before we do that, I will say, obviously Norwich did win, so I am wearing my Craig Bellamy Simply the Vest. I mean, that works on an audio podcast level, but those watching the live video will realize I am absolutely not wearing it. I can't find it. So we'll have to deal with that retrospectively, which is a shame, because now I am genuinely wondering where my Craig Bellamy Simply the Vest is. But, at least I got to, consider putting it on this day after a win. So that is good news. But we're not going to talk about a win straight off, are we? So let's talk about a certain head coach in our headline act. Careful, really loud sting coming up. Turn your volume down or back away from your headphones. Yes, it was quite remarkable to watch Norwich City celebrate a victory in the Premier League, because I hadn't seen that away from home since November 2019. Potentially more remarkable was what happened after that. Moments after Daniel Farke was standing in front of me, talking about how best to approach the international break off the back of a win. He was no longer Norwich City head coach, which after 4.5 years and a remarkable amount of up and down, I suppose, is fair to say, came as kind of a bolt out of the blue, I think, for everyone, including the Norwich City fans who probably wanted him gone. I think they almost said it not thinking it was actually going to happen. It seemed to be the reaction of a lot of people. I guess we kind of all know what happened and what the process was. If you don't, there is a piece on The Athletic on that. It's kind of my job to do that. So you'll be able to read that if you so wish. Steve, what was it like for you, where you were and when you heard and things on Saturday?
When did I hear? I think it was John on our WhatsApp group, actually. So John Rogers broke the news to me. What a man to have broken it. I couldn't have picked anyone better. It was a surreal day, wasn't it, on Saturday? Because I know we're going to talk about the win, but
part 3.
Yeah, but it kind of like, the first win of the season, it just felt absolutely amazing, and the way they did it as well, and the tension was back, and then 3 hours later, it felt like it didn't matter at all. It was all about Farke, and all about the decision. Obviously, initially completely shocked, then kind of felt, I don't know, quite sad and a bit nostalgic. But I think having come around to it, I'm not sure Saturday. It feels like the right call. I was on this podcast a week ago saying I lost faith in the manager and I think someone else needs to have a go. So I can't now sit here and go, oh, that was terrible. Why did we do that? It wouldn't be right. I do think it was right. The timing was a bit off, but I think there were reasons for that. And ultimately, if you'd said to me on Saturday that we'd take 3 points and then another manager's going to come in and bring fresh impetus, fresh ideas and a new approach, I would say that's a pretty good Saturday for us. So obviously we'll talk Farke legacy. Absolutely love the guy. I obviously don't even need to qualify really by saying any of that. But for me, they may not have gone about it in the perfect way, but I think we've ended up with the right result.
I think the process of it all is a fascinating discussion, because there's kind of the ruthlessness of the logistical decision, but there's actually the consequences of how they decided to do it, which are probably that they won the game. Because I would imagine if had Daniel Farke left and a caretaker been put in charge, Norwich probably don't win at Brentford. I just think that's probably too much upheaval. The performances weren't at a level where you'd have just expected a big bounce because Daniel Farke wasn't in the dugout. It's much more nuanced than that. So by removing that uncertainty. They almost gave themselves the best opportunity to win the game, I feel. And then, the only way of allowing Daniel Farke to say goodbye to the players personally was to do it at Colney on the evening they were getting back from the game. Otherwise, everyone disappears for the international break. So that kind of also underpins the timing of it, I suppose. So, but likewise, pretty ruthless, Dan.
Yeah, and in retrospect, although most of us saw it coming, but equally didn't see it coming as well. But managers are always most at risk before an international break. And because it didn't happen after Leeds immediately, I think most fans were probably thinking it wasn't going to happen now. It may happen a little bit later in the season. So it did come as a bit of a shock. And I, like Steve, I also found out through the WhatsApp group from John as well. When he mentioned sacking, it was so far from my mind, actually, that I had no idea what we were talking about, and B, then I thought Michael Bailey's been sacked from the Athletic, and then C,
oh wow, hang on, you thought I'd been sacked ahead of Daniel,
and then it finally sunk in when a quick look at Twitter. But yeah, the timing was odd, wasn't it? But in some ways, I've come around to thinking, as you were just saying, Steve, it's probably the best way to have done it, because if you imagine this podcast last week after Leeds, the way we would have been talking about Daniel Farke probably would have been slightly less affectionate than the way we'll be talking about him tonight, I think. And it's absolutely right, we'll be talking about him in sort of glowing terms, but I do think it was the right time to go. Anyone who was there or watched the second half against Leeds will know that a manager whose core strength was getting players to play to a system had lost his core strength in that game and through much of the season as well. So it did feel like, sadly, the right time for him to go.
I am curious to know what you think I'd been sacked for.
What
would you guess? Huh?
Probably shouldn't broadcast that, should we?
No, let's keep that under wraps. Good point. Yeah, non-disclosure agreements, we're fine. I mean, Ryan, the thing that got me is that, and I don't know, can there be many managers who their last act is standing in front of an away end, doing his allays and cheering and hugging the players and smiles everywhere. The way fans were singing Daniel Farke's name when they were 2-0 up and 1-0 up during the first half, and again in the second half, I've just never really known that. And I guess that's probably what filtered into probably the sort of blinking at the news at that time, because actually probably, I guess, well, I know the decision had already been made, but in a way, you can only imagine what, say, Delia and Michael were thinking, Stuart Webber thinking, he had massive faith in Daniel for so long that they're sat there and they've won the game and they're watching these scenes going, oh, we have to tell him in about an hour that he's getting sacked.
There was a lovely moment on the perfectly legal stream that I watched of the game, where I think they were 1-0 up about 10 minutes in, and they just cut to the director's box, and Delia and Michael, Stuart Webber, everyone just looked, I can't say without being too explicit, but they looked pretty miffed and like down at the whole thing. And I think this is the first time, certainly in my years as a Norwich fan, that I think a manager has left on such glowing terms. And there was a really strange, bittersweet feeling of kind of like a breakup where that you don't love, well, you love each other, not enough to keep it going. And it's a nice note to end on, good win. But it's really strange feeling in the air about it all. But I think ultimately, the right decision for sure.
Yeah, which I think is what most people have agreed on. I suppose it. Now, I tell you what, let's go. It's something that you guys would say just to sum up the Daniel Farke era, I suppose. Because as I said, we're going to do a special podcast in 24 hours time where we're going to go properly into it. So we don't need any majorly long answers. But if we were just to bring it home in terms of Daniel Farke, how would you Daniel sum it up?
Well, the first word that always comes to mind with Farke is joy. He may not be our best ever manager, and he isn't. Dave Stringer, Mike Walker, etc., have strong claims to that. But what he did is he dragged us and the players. He dragged us and the players from a position of kind of slight despair in a footballing context, and brought just joy to it. That 18-19 season is going to be difficult to be bettered for the sheer number of late goals, the sheer sort of joy we played off football with, the joy of seeing the collective spirit on the pitch amongst this sort of group of disbanded players from other clubs who had never really found it anywhere else but came to Norwich City and were brought together. That's going to be hard to replicate. And despite the sort of the horrors of the 10 games in the pandemic and the start to this season and the sort of rather dreary first season under Daniel Farke, no one will remember those. Everyone will just remember the sheer sort of thrilling entertainment he brought to this football club across those 4.5 to 5 years that he was here.
Lovely. Ryan?
I'm going to say iconic. Similar to what Dan said, I think particularly the 2 championship winning seasons, they're going to be seasons that are talked about decades from now. Just the football that was played, the again, like bringing all of this group of players together, a group of misfits, sort of becoming this unstoppable force. And yes, there have been the odd lows with the pandemic and whatnot, but I think certainly in my time as a fan as well, these 2 seasons have been, or those 2 seasons, I should say, have been the most enjoyable, I think.
He's certainly been one of the best managers to deal with. And Steve, we're probably going to speak a lot about this in the podcast tomorrow night, so we probably don't need to go into it too much. But I suppose for me, it's little things like my little boy coming in the room yesterday, and me suddenly twigging that he's the only Norwich manager I've spoken to with him. And even when Archie was 2, he was like, he knew Daniel Farke's face and his name, and it's like, oh yeah, so I suppose it's just little things like that. You don't have managers who hang around very long, never mind have success over a prolonged period, and let's be honest, it was success over 4 years essentially, wasn't it, really? So to a degree. And also just something like getting the football club through COVID. I mean, that was you wouldn't really have wanted any other manager to be in charge of your football club in a global pandemic where football shut down for 3 months. I know they didn't really pan out when the football restarted, and I have to say, if you're looking at watershed moments, that maybe that from that point on was something that unraveled and will never get back. But yeah, I suppose that's just a little insight into my head. Have you got a little insight in your head, Steve? just a really, really small yeah, a little insight, not a little head. You're all right.
I've got a small insight from a massive head. Yeah, I think to be honest, like end of an era is the cliche, but it is very much an era, isn't it? And I think what we kind of forget is just how different that style of football was when Farke came in for Norwich fans, and how much we had to adapt to it in the first season. And obviously, yeah, the guys have already said in great detail exactly what came after. But the Farke, we don't know what's coming next. But the Farke era is very much going to be, in 30, 40 years' time, it will stand alone, purely because of the style of football and how much changed from the team he took over to the team he had in place, even like 6 months, 12 months after, and what he then went on to achieve, obviously just kind of topped that off. So, yeah, I think it's. I've been thinking, is he the best manager since I started watching them? It's tough. I mean, you kind of don't want to give it to the guy who managed Ipswich as well, do you, Ryan? But like, yeah.
This is the thing. It's all day I've been thinking it's between him and Paul Lambert, but I think you've got to give it to Dan, haven't you, at this point?
They're both remarkable achievements. We don't have to rank everything. As someone who often ranks things, I do always try and make that point. So I think we'll wrap that up for now in terms of Daniel Farke, and we'll have a proper lengthy love-in about him tomorrow night. There is now obviously the question of what happens next, which is probably why everyone's watching this live, because they think they're going to get a massive insight into something that hasn't been decided yet. It's a really interesting situation now, isn't it, Dan? Because what this has done is it's removed any question mark over the head coach being good enough, and we're now very much left with: is the playing squad good enough? Was the recruitment good enough? And how good are you at recruiting the next head coach, Mr. Stuart Webber?
Yeah, so many questions to answer as well, because obviously people have been calling for Cantwell and Gilmore and Cholis. So we're really going to see now whether these players are up to scratch and whether the new manager can get most out of Rashika, who looked excellent against Brentford, can carry on Norman's good form, etc. as well. But it's interesting. Obviously, we're just going to get into talking about some of the names that have been bandied about, but the reaction to those are interesting as well, because we're bottom of the table with 5 points. So we're not going to be swimming in the top tier or the second tier of managerial appointments. So whoever we pick, whoever we bring in, there's going to be flaws with them. There's going to be unknowns with them, whether it's someone who's not managing top flight of any European football like Knutson, or someone who's managing the top flight of football but was probably underwhelming like Lampard, or someone who's just come off the back of a sacking like Dean Smith. Who we're going to end up in, or with rather, is someone who's going to have those sort of flaws. So it's such a crucial appointment now, because it can't just be someone who's going to come in and firefight. It's going to be knowing Stuart Webber. It's going to be someone who has to buy into how Norwich City act as a club. It's going to have to be someone who buys into potentially having to do this all again in the Championship next season. But it's also got to be someone who the board and Webber believe can keep us up. Otherwise, we wouldn't have acted with Daniel Farke. So getting that balance right is an unenviable job.
I mean, it certainly has to be an upgrade on Daniel Farke, because that is surely the point of the change, and someone who can get more out of this squad of players. And I guess, Ryan, what I've been thinking about is, do Norwich have to appoint someone with a view to next season? Should they actually just appoint someone who's the best job for this year? And if it doesn't work out, you could, ultimately probably recruit again in the summer for a manager who may be better suited to the Championship. I mean, like Daniel Farke could still be available, but let's not make that joke. Yeah, what do you think?
It's a precarious position to be in, because I think given where we are at the moment, it'd be stupid not to have an appointment in mind that could potentially get us back up. I don't think it's in the club's nature to look immediately short term and then change again in the summer should they go down. I think they'll want someone who's going to come in, obviously potentially keep Norwich up, but be prepared for the challenge of getting promotion next year should the worst happen. But then again, it's like you have to then look at who's out there who could potentially do that. Dean Smith is an option. He's done it before. He's got Nuno as well. Has done it before with Wolves. So I mean, there are options out there, but I think longevity is key in the appointment as well. I think they'd be stupid to plan for the immediate short term on its own, as it were.
What do you reckon, Steve?
Yeah, I completely agree with Ryan's point. I think we need to be looking at longevity. I think we don't need somebody that's going to go in there and completely rip up everything that Daniel Farke has done. To be honest, I think it's kind of building on what he's already kind of set up. And the question that you ask about the squad, that's now really interesting. I mean, the rest of the season now becomes quite exciting, really, because I think it is the question now of, my feeling was always that Farke wasn't really getting the best out of the squad that he had at his disposal. And is there another coach who could? And I suppose what we're now about to find out is yes or no. I know there are names being bandied about, and some of them I like less than others. The short list that you see of the bookies' favourites is hilarious, because you know that like 9 out of 10 of them are not going to be anywhere near.
Steve Bruce still on there? Is Steve Bruce still on there? I should look it up, shouldn't I?
I think he was. Who are the other ones who are on there?
Well, Eddie Howe was on there yesterday still, wasn't he?
You can always get out of a football contract, so see what you get.
Did I see Sky Sports News tweet today that, what were the 3 names? Dean Smith,
Hasenhüttl,
and Hasenhüttl.
Yeah. Which, right, the petty person in me just wants Hasenhüttl just for the sake of after the international break, just when Southampton come, and then that's it. He can go after that, just for that one game, just that.
It would be hilarious. But I mean, well, you would know better than me, Michael, whether that's just a load of nonsense or not, or whether it's all just completely made up. But
well, I tell you what, I've done about 8 media appearances since Saturday night. So I felt like maybe we should have a section where you can just grill me questions and we just get it over and done with, because that's probably what people want. And if I'm doing it everywhere else, we might as well do it on here. So shall we, for the next like minute or a bit, do you want to just throw questions at me? Just get them out of the way. Ask me and let's do it. And I'll probably, I'll answer what I can.
What sort of coat do you think the new manager should wear? Should it be another Farke outfit, or should he go entirely different?
Well, we've got to cut. He can't rock up looking like Daniel Farke. That's going to be an issue, isn't it? Because it's going to be like new Emperor's New Clothes, or the other way around. Whatever the opposite is of that saying, it would be that a new emperor in his old clothes.
Are you saying they should wear a Craig Bellamy vest? Is that what you're getting at?
Yes, definitely. Okay. Yeah.
Full kit, just full Norwich City kit on the sidelines. Maybe if it's John Terry, that will get that.
It won't be John Terry. Big fan of BK8, by the way, John Terry, if I remember rightly.
He was an ambassador, wasn't he? He was an ambassador.
Yes, he was. Yeah, that's what I meant. In case anyone thinks that was exactly what I meant. It won't. John Terry will not be at Norwich City Football Club. I feel quite confident in saying that.
Are these the kind of probing questions you've been getting when you've been doing interviews?
That was the first one. I've had that one 5 times. What was the one you asked at the start of all this, Steve, that was kicking it off? Can't remember now.
I can't remember, but I have another one. Well, there's a lot of chat. There's a lot of chat about 2 people in the comments. And that's Kjetil Knudsen. I don't know if I'm saying that right.
I don't know how to pronounce it.
Frank Lampard. Lampard. So I don't know, like, I know you. Well, you might give your politicians answer if I say, "Are they right, Michael?" So I'm not going to ask you that. But do you think
whatever you want?
Are those 2 names? Do those 2 names sound plausible to you?
So the first thing to say, because everyone asks me, I don't know who the shortlist is. I don't know who. I think it's down to 2 candidates. I think so. I don't know who they are. I reckon there's about 5 people who know who they are. I reckon it will come out as soon as Norwich have either decided who it is or told them or agreed. I reckon it might come out the other end because they'll know and they'll have to tell. That would be my surmising of how the process will work. So it's quite amusing watching everyone sort of spinning around trying to nail who it is and do stuff on all these names because 5 people know. We don't know yet. So, that's how I see it. I think it's so Frank Lampard, I just can't see it being him. Famous last words, may end up with egg on my face. I just can't see it being him because I would have thought that would just have been sorted quite quickly. Why does Frank take this job would be my question. If he's managed Chelsea and Derby, does he really then want a relegation on his CV? The Villa job will be far more appealing to him. And it's interesting that job is now up as well because it'd be interesting who appoints first and who they appoint because are they fishing in the same waters? I don't know because Hasenhüttl, I could see going to Villa. There's no way he's coming here, but I could definitely see him going to Villa.
Well, they've been linked with Hasenhüttl and Gerrard, haven't they? And Gerrard seems to be a sort of reputation-wise, at least slightly above Lampard at the moment. So that would make sense that Lampard hasn't been associated with the Villa job.
Exactly. And but then would Gerrard leave Rangers? That's an interesting one at this point. And I think that logic also applies to Knudsen, who is on the brink of a second title at Bodo Glimt and is still in the Champions League. So I think he seems like a really good idea from all that I know of him, which isn't masses. But it does sound like most people in Norway are like, why are the English media stoking this up? So I'm not getting the impression from that end that it's particularly close. And also, to be honest, I don't think the process is particularly close. It's, Monday night? I don't think we'll be hearing anything in the next day or 2. Maybe, but we will see. Maybe things will move a bit quicker. I liked the idea of Lucien Favre, if I'm honest, but I don't know if he's particularly hungry and whether the Norwich job would actually excite him.
He wouldn't take the Norwich. I've heard that name.
I think you're right.
It feels too big or too small for him, really.
Yeah. So so that's it, really. It will be really interesting who they go. If they go, I feel like it's someone we probably don't know yet, maybe, and.
Is there anyone else? Is there anyone else who you or who anyone on the call pod has given consideration to that we haven't mentioned yet?
Well, I suppose I'm slightly surprised that Wagner's not been linked back to Stuart Webber yet because he's doing a good job again at Young Boys. He's obviously got Premier League experience. Relegation on his CV, but I'm surprised he's just not been linked. I don't know if that's been categorically ruled out or Webber wouldn't even think about it. But interested that, Michael, that you've ruled out all of the 3 main candidates.
Who are the 2 then, Michael? Who are they?
No, in fairness, I haven't ruled anyone out. I just they would be my question marks over whether it's them. And as I said, the eggs are already being lobbed at me to land on
suppose
my face.
As I said, I guess we'll end up with someone who will have their flaws, though, won't they? So like
Exactly,
Lampard, like Knutson. So whoever
How-
comes, we'll be able to say the same thing about them, won't we?
Yes.
Sorry, Dan. I'm curious. How would you guys feel about someone coming in who has never managed in the Premier League before?
I'd love it. Honestly, what I'm hoping for is.
Oh, yes. Go on, Steve.
I want somebody who we don't know how their team plays football, especially we don't know their style of play. Just something completely out there, like we had with Farke. I'd love to have that all over again. That can often go one of two ways. And to be honest, with Knutson, my initial feeling was he sounds like a Ronnie Dyler who completely bombed at Celtic. But honestly, give me. I think that would be fun. I sort of almost don't care if it goes really badly. I'd rather have the excitement of that than have someone like Lampard, who you kind of know what he's going to bring, and like, okay, like they'll be reasonably entertaining to watch, but they won't be able to defend and won't be able to defend against a counter attack. You kind of like, and he's not going to keep us up, is he, Lampard? Realistically, I'd rather have the option of somebody who could come in and just be completely brilliant and has never managed in the Premier League before than one of these kind of safe appointments. That's my feeling on it.
You see, I share. Oh, sorry, Michael. No, I share a similar thought process to you, Steve. But my worry is, as with Alex Neil, as with Daniel Farke, if this new guy comes in, has never managed in the league before, and they have a week where they go to somewhere like, I don't know, Villa Park or another sort of mid-table team, and they get spanked, when does the fear factor kind of set in, and when do the tactics start to change, or when do they start to go within themselves a bit, and then have the same cycle sort of all over again? I know, like, it's one of many possibilities, but I think we've seen that twice in the last two different managers who've managed in the Premier League, that I kind of feel like they should be going for someone who's at least done it before at this level to a degree.
Well, I guess the last time we did that was Chris Hughton, and we should never speak of that reign ever again.
Brutal. The most brutal thing since Saturday night.
That's the kind of thing, like, if you want someone to firefight, then someone like Chris Hughton is obviously your option. I'm with Steve. I'd rather have someone sort of slightly unknown who's going to come in and try and make us all excited. We won't know what the first 11 will be. We probably won't know what kind of football we're going to play. And that's part of being a football fan, isn't it? That sort of new excitement. Because as disappointing as it was to lose Farke, and I'm still sad about it, everyone's sort of bubbling away with a bit of excitement about who's going to come in.
Go on, Steve.
Well, I was just going to say, the other thing is, I think what Webber and Farke have built is a system where I would have thought it's a fairly good job to have. Like, it might not be a Lucien Favre type level, but I do think for an ambitious coach, it's a good place to cut your teeth. You're likely to get time. They're not going to get blamed for this season, so they're going to get a good chunk of next season, even if things go really, really badly. And also, you've got the academy is improved. You've got kind of the opportunity to take what is a fairly talented group of players and improve them from a fairly low base. So I think for probably more so than in a long, long time with this appointment, I think Norwich City feels like a good team to manage. We're coming from a good place.
I think what I would say, I don't care if they've got Premier League experience at all. What they are going to have to do is prove they have the tactical knowledge and strength to manage in the Premier League, because I think the one thing that it's become clear is that the teams are really astute. They know what they're doing. You have to be flexible, and you have to be good at being flexible and reactive and proactive, and you have to adjust and adapt to so many different situations, which for all of Daniel Farke's many strengths, I think reacting in a quick and effective way in game management tactically, or get from game to game, wasn't the same. He wasn't as strong as that as he was tweaking a formula that was working and that could be relied on. Which is why I think if he manages a team that is a strong team relative to the division he's in, he will have success, and that could be any division, I think, honestly. So I think there will be coaches across Europe who will have proven that they are tactically astute and can do that. And also, I think that you can have a team that is defensively well structured, but also exciting on the counter, or exciting at cutting through the lines and being essentially the Wolves team under Nuno Espirito Santo when they got promoted was that they were rigid and defensively you couldn't get past them, but they had some real quality and they could cut through you really quickly. And that is an exciting brand of football. I suppose the problem with Chris Hughton was it was literally, we're going to sit here and then hopefully we're going to score. And that's not exciting. And then if it doesn't work at all, you've got nothing left. And I think you can have a tactically astute coach who can deal with things, but also produce a brand of exciting football, even if it's not possession based or fluid dynamic movement or a high press. So I think there are different ways of doing it, Dan.
And what I would say about that is our squad building in the summer has sort of very much seemed to be pointing in that direction as well. A team that could sit back and then counter through the lines with Cholis and Rashika and Sargent as well. That was and Lise Malou who should be able to carry the ball. That's one of the reasons we brought him in as well. So it feels like we have a squad that would suit a manager who has that as their sort of foundation in the Premier League.
You know what? That is a brilliant point. Well made. Well, I think we're not going to pick that one out this week, which I hope everyone forgives us for, because no one wants to hear a rant this week, do they? Let's be honest. So in that case, I'm going to move us on very nicely to our halftime sting, which is just here. Now, I've just realised we didn't do any comments, but that's okay. I think we'll have a look at the end of the pod and see if we can get some comments together. I just got a bit excited about playing this sting. You all know how much I love it. Okay, this week's centrefold then. I'm not going to play that sting. The game did get a little bit lost in everyone, so I'm going to bring it forward to part 2. There you go. Part 2, we're going to talk about the actual football match. I have to say, watching Norwich's 2-1 win at Brentford, Norwich obviously went back to a 4-2-3-1, but didn't put it in their pre-match graphic, did they? No, notice that. I was, which wasn't necessarily a surprise. I thought Norwich were good in the first half. I thought they were up against a Brentford team who looked pretty lost. I then thought Brentford got better in the second half. Primarily helped by a tactical tweak by Thomas Frank in half time, which we've seen quite a bit of at this level before. And then Norwich just sort of lost their way completely and hung on. I have to say, Steve, the result was good. Some of the performance was really good, but they were kind of hanging on desperately. And the way they just decided not to bother defending their back post for the entirety of the second half, it was a unique form of defending that I've not really seen done before.
They were. I think you're not normally harsh, Michael, but I think you are being a little bit harsh this time. And I also feel like beggars can't be choosers. So if we get, get 3 points, it doesn't really matter how we achieve it. And do you know what? I'm actually going to, I suppose, for probably the final time, give Daniel Farke some serious credit for getting us those 3 points, because I agree with you. At the start of that second half, we were under the cosh massively, and I didn't think we were going to hold out when Henry scored that goal. Quite what was going on with the back post, I've no idea. But Farke identified that, and I've been screaming for about 10 minutes, get Dowell off, and he did. But he did something that I don't think any of us watching would have done, which is probably why none of us are Premier League managers, and brought on Dimi Anulis, switched it to a 5 at the back, played Brandon Williams on the left of a 3, which I don't think he's ever done before.
No, yeah, and left back, yeah.
And the threats that were coming down Brentford's wings kind of abruptly stopped, really. Anulis did really well when he came on, I thought. And really, I can't remember Brentford having a really good chance from that point onwards. And certainly they didn't look as threatening. So I actually think in a pretty critical game, that we could, if an equaliser had gone in, regardless of the whole managerial situation, that would have been absolute crushing. So I think if that was Farke's last act as Norwich manager, it's a bloody good one, because I genuinely think that won us the points, apart from the first half display. So yeah, we were maybe fortunate to get those 3 points, but I do think they really, really dug in a way that we haven't seen them do at any point in the last 21 Premier League games. So I think credit to the players and credit to Farke for that one, because I expected nothing and they delivered 3 points. So yeah, delighted.
So what you're saying is Daniel Farke did eventually become the Premier League coach we all thought he could.
Yeah, why are we
an
sacked
hour
him?
before he
What are
was
we doing?
sacked. Brilliant. That is not the take I wanted, Steve. But fair play, absolutely fair play. I mean, we saw Norwich score twice. We saw them score early. Dan, we saw them take the lead for the first time this season in the Premier League. What was your favourite bit about all that?
Well, I'm just going to rub it in a bit more now after Steve, because I was going to say exactly the same thing. I thought when you were talking about Farke not getting it right in the Premier League and being flexible enough, he did finally get it right against Brentford, because we were there was no way we were drawing that game, winning that game or drawing that game if he hadn't switched it round, and he did, and he'd finally learned. So shame he's gone now, maybe. I don't know.
Wow.
But
I did not see this coming. I have to be honest.
It's not fit the narrative.
Carry on.
But yes,
this is going to be a great clip, by the way, if Norwich get relegated with 8 points. But yeah, carry on.
But there were several sort of good takeaways from that. I thought that was, I think I mentioned before, Rashika's best game for us, and that was on the back of throughout the season, he sort of had halves where he's looked really excellent, and when he's come on, he's looked good as well. But this is the first time he's probably strung together a 90-minute performance where he's looked absolute Premier League quality. Norman just gets better and better. He felt like he's sort of more comfortable in the 4-2-3-1 sitting as well, so he knew exactly what his role was and when to break. That Kenny seemed a bit more comfortable in that role as well. Thought Lise Malou had that sort of Steeperman effect in that 10, where he's sometimes in the midfield 3, sometimes playing as a number 10. So I thought going forward, a 4-2-3-1 again suited us pretty well. I thought Max Aarons was excellent. Janiulis was good when he came on. Brandon Williams probably had his best game for us as well. I mean, let's not forget that we were playing against a Brentford side who'd lost 3 in a row and were looking pretty low on confidence until the second half as well. But more than anything, I think that performance showed that we do probably have the players that should be able to compete for finishing 17th or 16th in the Premier League. We do have the players that a manager can take on and mould into a team that can bring out surprise results, bring out surprise wins, and compete against teams alongside us. So I think we should take a lot of heart from that performance, and it obviously meant so much to them to win as well at the end, which is obviously, they'd lost, they hadn't won for 10 games. So it's going to mean a lot to them as well. But it was an emotional outpouring from the players and the fans. And it was really good to see that sort of viscerally how much it means to them as well.
Absolutely. And especially linking between them and the fans, because that obviously we still trying to remember that hasn't happened for so long, certainly in terms of Norwich having a little bit of success to grow it all. I thought centre-backs were very good. Ryan on Saturday, Andrew Bamidele, who is still a bit raw, but especially at this level, but is just looking absolute part still. Ben Gibson I thought was very good too as the captain. And Milot Rashic's role in the first goal, I think, probably escaped me a little bit at the time, but it was a proper dribble that really created some space on the left, and then the opportunity for Norman off the end of that. So, and we also saw a through ball for Teemu Pukki. Scenes, Ryan, scenes, absolute scenes. It was the first time I think we can all agree that it felt like things were finally coming together. I must admit, I disagree with the guys a little bit. I thought the start to the second half, particularly after Pukki dragged his shot wide, I had a bit of squeaky bum time. And I thought that perhaps between the lines, which they marshalled so well in the first half, they were a bit slack until they made the change. One thing I don't think has been mentioned as much is I liked all the dark arts we were doing towards the end of the game, like Matthias Norman picking up all sorts of knocks and just sitting there for 5 minutes, like getting the physio to wiggle his finger and everything. He dislocated his finger, Ryan.
Okay.
I'm wiggling the finger in directions it's not supposed to
go. But also as well, word for Kieran Dowell, who I thought, I agree, needs to come off. But there are a few moments where Brentford was sort of recycle the play in their own defensive third, and he'd just go through the back of someone, stop the ball dead, free kick, and then cut the rhythm a little bit. And that's what the game needed. It's just that kind of that harshness that I think had been lacking, and a tough centre that we hadn't seen from a Norwich City team in the Premier League for so long. yeah, the signs are all there. I do agree with the guys that I think the players are there. They just need to, I think above all, they need to be made to believe that they can do it, because there is so much quality there that can be tapped into, but they just need to carry this on. And this is the perfect springboard for the new person to come in and, yeah, build from there, basically.
I do now strongly believe that Daniel Farke's greatest parting gift is probably 3 points in his last game, because it's made the vacancy much more appealing. It's at least delivered a little bit of extra belief, and I think we should all be probably quite grateful for that, especially as he did turn into the Premier League coach we all thought he would in his final 45 minutes. So,
I think we, that while that was a good performance, there probably wasn't enough there to make me think, oh, we'll go on and beat Southampton now under Farke. I think, it was, as Ryan says, it's getting that belief, and I'm not sure Farke as the coach should do that game after game after game. The other thing about that game is scoring early was absolutely massive for us. It's the first time, obviously, that we've been in front all season, and having a lead to defend just made Brentford come out that little bit more, and meant that we could play that counter-attacking football that essentially the players that we've brought in this season are kind of here to do. We just haven't had a chance really to do it, because most teams don't, well, either too good or will, sit back, like Leeds did in the second half when they're in front. It's like, well, go on then, play through us, and we just can't. I think pushing Brentford on maybe another 10 yards or whatever it was, or the fact that they had to come forward in order to attack us, just really suited us down to the ground. So tactically, the game worked out really well for us. But I completely agree with what Ryan said with the attitude in the second half, especially to just kind of grind the points out and go down at every available opportunity, which we never seem to normally do. We're too nice. It was a kind of mixture of all things, really.
Essentially, we are looking for 3 teams to finish above, Dan. I would say on Saturday's evidence and the fact that Brentford had a fast start, but do seem to be getting a little lost. I do definitely think that they're potentially one. So that's 19.
Brentford, Newcastle still. Despite the billions being pumped into them, are they really going to be able to recruit the kind of players they need to recruit in January? Is Eddie Howe, whose last act as a manager was getting relegated, the guy to keep them up? So I think they're definitely going to be spending most of the season in a relegation fight. But then after that, I'm not entirely sure. Burnley look like they're back to their sort of niggly ways of getting draws when they should be beaten and then getting wins when they should draw. Leeds have players coming back from injury and have one of the best managers in the Premier League. So it's hard to know who's going to get sucked in. But all we can do is concentrate on playing as well as we can and picking up as many wins as we can, and then it kind of becomes irrelevant if we start winning.
That's the way.
Could it be Norwich, Brentford, and Watford? It's like, could that feasibly be the 3 that go back down?
Watford. I've forgotten about Watford. Yeah, absolutely. It could be Watford, couldn't it? Yeah.
That would be a great one for the Premier League enthusiasts, wouldn't it? So parachute payment fans, they'd love that as well. So
can I just ask a quick question, Michael?
Of course you can.
To Ryan and Steve as well. What do you think? What sort of level of performance or scoreline would it have taken for Stuart Webber to have had to call Delia to tell her that actually we probably shouldn't be sacking Daniel Farke after this? 5-0, 6-0. What would have been the scoreline?
That's a good question. I don't know.
Was there anything that could have done?
I wonder if they sort of, like Ryan was talking about the glum faces, whether they were kind of like, oh God, did I actually expect we were going to win this game? So I don't know. Maybe maybe like a 4-0 or something like that. But
cheap.
Hey, ignore the noise, trust the process, all that stuff. You've got to stick to your guns, right? Just
that must have posed the question. I was just going to say, it must have posed the question of them. They must have sat there for just a moment and gone, "Oh God, what are we going to do?" They must have done. They absolutely must have done. Anyway, sorry.
What would it have taken Delia Smith to rugby tackle Stuart Webber's and go,
no,
break the bad news?
Don't be having him. Don't be having him, Steve.
I was just going to ask just about go back to the Stuart Webber comments from the week before the Leeds game. They kind of, I know that there's such a thing as the dreaded vote of confidence, but they seem really hollow now to sort of say, we can't just give him 1 or 2 games, or, it's up to 100 people, not just one person. And then from having read your article, Michael, it sounded like he'd already even made his mind up by that point. So I kind of think, why come out and say that? Why not just Why not just keep quiet?
I don't think he'd made up his mind by that point, but I think they wanted to see something at Colney as a result of what was said, I think, and I don't think they saw it. And then I guess with the performance as well against Leeds, they still didn't see it. But you're right, and I think the reaction to it's really been really. We're getting back onto Daniel Farke sacking, obviously, but it has been really interesting watching the reaction, because actually the one person who's come out incredibly well from it is Daniel Farke. It's like, you know what, he's the best man ever in terms of being a human. I'm not arguing that, by the way. You know, all this absolutely bang on. His legacy is wonderful, and actually people are going, all right, so you know, Stuart Webber sacked him to kind of protect his situation, or to, you know, which I'm not saying I agree with that. And you know, his role is to make sure that he's doing the right thing on behalf of the entire football club. And I think I would imagine everyone's pretty much assumed that Stuart Webber probably will be here beyond the summer, which I think is sort of being intimated, just in case. Some people seem to be reporting it as if they've suddenly discovered it. So I just assumed it was an open secret now. But and obviously this situation probably underpins that as well. So it just shifts the focus, I suppose. That's why this is a huge, because we're now probably at the point where, you know, Daniel Farke's legacy is secure. So what is Stuart Webber's legacy going to be? Because it's probably going to ride on what this appointment's like.
Yeah, and he's never sacked a manager before, has he? First time, I think.
Has now.
Yeah, he has now.
Yeah,
before,
go on, Steve.
Can I just, because there's some names flying about in the comments, just managerial potential appointments. I don't know how serious some of these are, but I kind of think maybe can we pick a manager and assistant manager out of this lot? So I've got Thomas Frank. I don't know if this is serious. Paul Warne. There's loads. Ian Culverhouse.
I'd love it to be Warne.
Sorry, by the way, for not naming who's put these comments. There's just too many of them. Gary Johnson, Ronald Koeman, Barry Fry, Joachim Löw, Bruno Labbadia, Gary Monk, and Zinedine Zidane. They're just a little lecture of what's flying around. Oh, and Slaven Bilic has just come in as well. So
maybe just do what Have I Got News For You did when Angus Dayton had to leave, and just have one a game now. Just rotate.
Manager.
That's a great idea.
No one ever's done that before.
You could pick the manager depending on, you know, who they would best suit the opposition.
I feel like
it's extreme Watford style.
Yeah, I suppose so. But, you know, you could draft in Jose to face Ole Gunnar Solskjaer, I suppose, and you know, it'd be like everyone could be a manager with a grudge against the other manager. You know, if Villa appoint Lampard, then you know we could have Steven Gerrard for a game, and then I love that idea. Who would you pick to face a certain opponent? Who would you next pick to face Ipswich? Not that that's likely to happen anytime soon, but you know, Norwich draw Ipswich in the. Can they draw them in the FA Cup, or are they already out? I don't know.
They drew, didn't they, Ipswich?
They drew, so they're still in it. So Ipswich Town at Carrow Road in the third round of the FA Cup. Who takes charge of Norwich for that game?
Paul Lambert. I mean, it kind of got to go.
Ian Culverhouse.
I guess Bruce has previous Norwich Ipswich Cup matches, hasn't he? So maybe he could have a go.
Bring himself on, header in the 85th minute, job done. Where are we at? Oh yeah, so we got back onto the old subject. So were they all the names, Steve? There are no more names.
All the names on the long list, on the ball long list.
Yeah. Well, no, let's not attach our name to that list. From Gary Monk to Zinedine Zidane is quite a range of people. I tell you what, then let's move on to a bit of Motti.
This is almost fantasy football.
This will be quick. It's time to look ahead. It's an international break. So does anyone really care? I mean, we know Norwich's managerial search is obviously going on, but there will be players who will be away with their international folks. Christos Jolis and Dimi Yanoulis are both away with Greece. I mean, I don't want to start reading too much into things, but they were two players who didn't post anything about Daniel Farke on their Instagrams. That's all I'll say. I don't know, but that maybe it's not Greek style. Maybe
the
it's a
first
cultural
one
difference.
Posted was him putting his thumbs up on an aeroplane, wasn't it?
There you go.
Which you can read something into, I guess.
So it just struck me that they hadn't bothered. which maybe in itself says enough. Maybe they don't even look on their Instagrams, because that is also entirely possible. So yeah, there will be various players away. Obviously, Isaac Kabak has glandular fever, which doesn't sound great, because that strikes me as something that might keep him out for a little while. But I don't know if any of you guys have any glandular fever experience.
I had a friend who had it, and had it for months, I think.
Okay.
My dad got it doing work experience on a pig farm. That's all I've got to add to that discussion.
In fairness, we don't know how Ozan contracted it.
Again, probably not something for on air, I reckon. Let's get that rumour mill going.
Straight to bed. I'm going straight to bed after this. Yeah, and other people away. Teemu Pukki had cramp at the end of the Norwich game, which struck me as strange because I never has cramp. But he's gone away with Finland, and I imagine they'll all be by their phones, the players, going, so who's my boss when I come back? So we'll keep an eye on their whereabouts over the course of the international break. I'm sure then Norwich come back to face Southampton, who. I mean, this was the fixture that kind of signalled relegation 2 years ago, wasn't it? Ultimately, Steve, Daniel Farke threw a 4-4-2 at a team where everyone kind of assumed that was the one formation they shouldn't have played, and they had a good first 5 minutes, and then that was it, really.
Oh yeah, that was hopeless, that game, wasn't it? Yeah, it feels. I mean, I can't wait. Like, presumably we're going to have a new manager in by then. The atmosphere you would think is going to be really, really good, especially if we get Hasenhüttl in. That would be incredible, isn't it? So, yeah, I do not know what to expect, but Saturday, as the guys have said, kind of gave me the hope that this is a decent group of players, and somebody could get the best out of them. You know, I haven't even mentioned Matthias Normann's name yet, and he was so good on Saturday. So that I'm beginning to hope again. I'm beginning to hope, and it does feel, and it feels quite big because it's a winnable game. You know, Southampton have been on good form themselves, haven't conceded many, but yeah, it's a game that we can win. It's a good first game for the manager, isn't it? So
yes,
who knows?
They have been in very good form, Southampton, which is a fair point. Fair point to make. It will be interesting, the crowd's reaction, Ryan. I mean, do you reckon Daniel will get a chance? I mean, I know he's not there, but I do wonder. I don't know. Maybe that's a bit.
No, I think if the new guy's in, stay clear of that. To be honest, by that point, I think it'd be like, again, agree with Steve. I think everyone will be up for it. At least it'll be one of the, if you get yourself a ticket, if you can, like, the atmosphere will be booming, to say the least. I mean, like, I think it's probably, the first kind of game you want is a winnable home game anytime, really, obviously. But in the current circumstance, I don't think there are many better fixtures they could ask for in the circumstances. You know, everyone's going to be refreshed after the international break. New person's going to be in. It's season starts here, lads. Season starts here.
Southampton will be massively complacent as well, won't they, Dan?
Yeah, naturally.
Massively. I just wonder if our stadium DJ will be complacent and forget to remove Parklife from the playlist before the game as well. Interesting to listen out to that. And I am, like Steve and Ryan, very hopeful. Crowd will be pumped. What I don't want is Steve Weaver to still be in the dugout when it comes to 3 p.m. Saturday against Southampton.
Did you cross over with Steve Weaver, Dan?
Oh yeah. Absolutely, I did. I mean, no disrespect to Steve Weaver, but you don't want him managing a Premier League side for more than 0 minutes.
I'm glad you clarified. I'm glad you qualified that. Right?
Hi, Steve, if you're
no
watching.
Disrespect, men. But yes, it would be quite interesting if Steve Weaver was taking the press conference on the Friday and then in charge.
And then we win against Southampton, so he's got to be manager for the next game as well. Wins that one, and suddenly Steve Weaver leads us to glory.
You imagine it. Hey, stranger things have happened, but if I can't think of any, so if people
not many,
then let us know, please. Well, we'll look forward to that. We obviously won't do a podcast next week. We will do our bonus podcast tomorrow on the Farke legacy, and we'll get all your tweets and comments and whatnot involved. Should we rattle through a couple now? Steve, did you highlight any, or shall I have a flick through?
I've got one specifically for Dan, and I love it because it is specific. Question for Dan: Would he rather Chris Hughton comes back with his boring football, we stay up, and Ipswich get promoted, or we get Ralph Hasenhüttl, we go down, and Ipswich go to League Two? That was from Matt Gregory at 8:59.
Wow.
There's
Very
a lot of
specific.
there are a lot of clauses in that, aren't there? So we keep Houghton but stay up.
Yeah.
But if we don't get Houghton, Ipswich go down.
No, Ipswich get promoted.
If we don't get Houghton.
No, sorry. Oh, yeah. No, if we don't get Houghton,
Very
they go
complicated.
down. If we
Okay,
do get
I'm just going to
Houghton,
give the straight answer of I don't want Houghton, whatever the circumstances. Unless it's winning the Premier League, then maybe I'll step back from that.
Love it. Let me know any more ones, Steve. I've got a couple. Simon Hardwick says, get Delia a tracksuit. So I think someone wants Delia in the dugout. I mean, in fairness, that would be fun. Just to see.
I mean, Neil Adams has done it, and he's sort of nearly on the board, isn't he? So,
Wow.
so-
Likening Delia Smith to Neil in the dugout
I
to
just mean
Neil Adams' like half season reign.
No, it's just like I think anybody, like just whatever job you want to do, you could just be the manager as well, right? It's just
And again, if they're taking it in turns for managers for the rest of the season, why not give Delia a
Well,
yeah.
if it genuinely does
They're in
come down
charge
to
against City.
if it genuinely comes down to 300 people's jobs, they might as well just rotate the jobs. Give them all a go. Let's get Sam Jeffrey in there, and then
get Michael Bailey in there?
Well,
Oh.
as people have seen on social, I had my interview this morning. Went really well. So we'll see how we get on. Philip Roper, the name he mentioned was Darren Farley. I mean, do you mean that Philip, he should do that as Daniel Farke? Will he step in and do his Daniel Farke impression? Is that what I guess? Have I got the right person?
Is
Yeah.
Darren Farley the impressionist?
Yeah,
He is, yeah. Just employ him, and then we can have that rolling manager thing. Every different costume, every
exactly.
league, different
That's a
impression.
great
There we
point.
go. Easy.
It's gonna be a lot of Brendan Rodgers, isn't it? A lot of Harry Redknapp, and he has to then manage the team in that style. I like that idea. Mr. Radio Floyd says Mick McCarthy. He is at work at the moment, so Premier League experience. Yeah.
I saw quite a few people on Twitter suggesting Emma Hayes.
Yeah, which would be
that's
it would be really interesting, wouldn't it?
I'd
Really
love that as
interesting
well. That'd be
circumstances.
fantastic.
Any other messages that you spotted, Steve, or shall we end up?
We've had absolutely loads. So
Thank you for everyone watching.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sorry that we didn't really do it all justice, but hey, we'll fill them next time, right?
Yes. Tomorrow, in fact, I guess. Thank you so many. We'll go through them properly, and we'll do our bumper pod on Daniel Farke tomorrow. In terms of his legacy, because I'm really conscious that we don't just sound like we're going to just do it all again and repeat ourselves. So we'll see. But what's life if you don't try things, hey? Well, in that case, I'm going to say that is time for the 86th edition of On the Ball, the Norwich City podcast that will say goodbye to the Daniel Farke era in 24 hours time. So please keep an eye out. If you're yet to do so, please make sure you subscribe via your podcast player of choice. The pod is available free for everyone on their usual player, and we are now streaming the recording of the podcast live in video form on my social media channels. Just search Michael Bailey, The Athletic, Norwich City, and your preferred social platform, and then hopefully it will show up. Ratings and reviews wherever prompted are always hugely appreciated. And if you want to get in touch with any questions or topic proposals, I have had a few recently, so they're in the queue. Then you can send me a direct message on Twitter, which is at Michael J. Bailey. A big thank you to our guest tonight. Steve, thank you so much. I hope you enjoyed that.
Pleasure, Michael. I very much did. Thank you.
What a superstar. Dan, thank you as always.
Thanks, Michael. Always a pleasure.
And Ryan, lovely to have you on for your debut. Are you happy with it?
6 out of 10. Solid midfield performance.
You should be. You should be happy with it. Thank you so much for coming on. And will you do it again?
Absolutely. Thank you very much.
That's all I need to hear. Top man. Well, we'll be back in a fortnight with loads more Canaries capers and I guess a new head coach in another On the Ball Norwich City podcast. Until then, never mind the danger. clear. Hey, 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 hey. I was almost going to do that. Steve, oh, sad, isn't it? Steve, Dan, Ryan, I'm so tired. All you Twitters out there, welcome to Wits End. If any of you have stumbled across this for the first time, or wondering what on earth, why are you still talking? It's already gone on so long. Well, the pod hasn't ended. It is Wits End, which you'll find out why and all the explanations on the Ball podcast number 42, which went live on September the 8th, 2020. It's all explained there. You can email this bonus part of the podcast as well directly with an email to Twitterkers, Twitter KERS, Twitterkers at iCloud.com, or use the hashtag Twitterkers on Twitter. Just don't explain what it refers to, because this is a secret club and only those who discover it are part of it, which is all you guys and girls out there who are listening now. Guys, this is the first Wits End without Daniel Farke as Norwich City manager. I mean, that has surely got to get you right here.
Yeah, I mean, I wouldn't say he's played a major part in Wits End, though, has he? Like, you know, I
don't ruin it, Steve. Just bask in it. It's awful. Just.
I mean, in fairness, Emi Buendia actually had a section of this named after him, didn't he? So maybe that departure was more affecting.
To look for a bonus now, then maybe we could get Daniel Farke on the podcast.
Oh yeah,
you've got the connection, surely, Michael.
Could you imagine that? Well, I'll work on it.
So awkward, wouldn't it?
I'll work on it. Why would it be awkward?
Oh, I'm sure you do a stellar job, Michael. But you know, it's a former Premier League manager we're talking to. I'll put a suit on if I'm invited.
I don't know. You keep going on about how awkward it's going to be, so maybe not.
And also, let's hope he hasn't listened to any of the previous ones, because especially not last week.
Hey, well, he watched this one because he can listen to this one because you basically said how great he was against Brentford. So that's a thing. That is definitely a thing. So it's been quite a busy weekend. So I have not really updated the Zodiac Whitbread, but that's okay because it's all stored, so we can do it next week. No problem whatsoever. There is good news though, isn't there, Steve? As a result of the weekend,
we're opening up the vault, Michael. The space vault. For I think I mixed my metaphors, but yeah, the space puns are a thing now. So, sorry, this is why I don't present.
Yes, you have also you were so disheartened with the idea of having a zodiac full of puns that you wanted also space puns.
Yeah, I think we should open it up.
I said wasn't allowed until Norwich won. I only took them 2 games after that, so they must have been equally desperate to get the space puns open. All I'll add here is that the other week when you suggested this idea, Chris Barton got in touch and said, surely it needs to be named Bailey's Comet. Though that doesn't really work as a whole space thing, does it? But that is a good pun.
Great.
Comet's a space-based object.
Oh, that. Yeah, set the bar high. That's so good that Dan's left the pod. Bailey's Comet. See you later.
He's literally cut himself out. We'll see if he rejoins before the end of the Wits End. I think I'd written it down as a name like we've got Zodiac Whitbread. The Bailey's Comet, but I don't know if that works really, does it? Dan's back. Hello, Dan. Dan got so excited at that he just went. Good to see you back.
Yeah, we're still talking about Bailey's Comet, Dan. I think that's a great name for it. And we have already had Josh in the comments say Milky Way Mackay. Milky Way Mackay.
I think I'll take that. I'll take that. Although it is dismantling your idea that the Zodiac Whitbread was a stretch, but that's okay. So that's all grand. Now, we've got a special, haven't we, for this Wits End? Ryan, you're here. Do you want to just tell us what this special is?
Absolutely. So I thought I put together a little game for everyone. It is the 5-second challenge. I don't know if you guys are aware of it. So I've got a timer on my phone. Excellent. And I'm going to set it for 5 seconds. And you each have 5 seconds to answer a question. They're going to be about 4 or 5 questions each, but they're going to come. The answers are going to have to come in threes. So I've started off with nice, easy ones, and we're going to get progressively harder as it goes on.
So it's basically go on.
So I will say to you, for example, name 3 previous Norwich City managers. You have 5 seconds to name 3 previous Norwich City managers.
Well, I hope that's one of the questions.
No.
I don't think my brain's going to cope with like 3 foods at the moment.
No.
So
They are.
good. Yeah.
I will say they are Norwich City related, so don't you worry.
Okay.
And they start off as sort of quizzical, and then they get whimsical as it goes on because
Okay.
it's wits end, guys. It's all about fun.
I love Ryan. I love Ryan. This is brilliant. Okay, well, let's crack on.
Brilliant
Let's
work.
crack on.
So,
We've gone on. So.
Yes. You know what? Let's start with Mr. Bailey. Go on. You're the most tired, so it makes sense that you make a fool of yourself first. Easy question. Michael Bailey, you have 5 seconds to name 3 current Norwich City first team centre backs. Go.
Ben Gibson, Grant Hanley, Andrew Bamidele.
Yes, well done. Easy, guys. Oh boy, we're
clapping
having
myself.
fun.
I'm clapping
Went for the
myself.
go with the long name as well, just to show off.
Oh, I will say as well,
started
because of names like Omar Bamidele, I will happily just take surnames or nicknames just to.
You get bonus points
well,
for
not
the
nicknames.
syllables.
Yeah, she do, actually, yeah.
Dan, if you want to add those in, be my guest, but I won't be keeping track of them.
Go on then. Who's going next?
Go on, Mr. Brigham. You have 5 seconds to name 3 current Norwich City first team centre midfielders. Ready? And go.
Oh my goodness. This has really got to me already now.
Dan, it's done.
Oh.
It's done. No, it's done. It's done.
This is why I could never be on any quiz list.
Oh my goodness.
Okay, and these are the easy questions. Steve, easy one. Name 3 of Norwich City's first team summer signings and go.
Christos Solis, Milot Rashid's Angus Gunn.
Yes, I'll
Is
give
it
you that.
first
Well
team?
done.
Well done, Steve.
Yes,
No
yeah.
comment, Dan.
So
Okay.
to clarify, did I get 0 there? Did I not
You got
none?
nothing. It is 1-1-0, I'm afraid, sir.
I think you had your arms in the air just as the time ran out. I think.
You know, if I put it in stopwatch,
Okay.
it looks better on camera, doesn't it? Right, next one. Let's start with. Go on, Michael. We'll go for you. I need you to name 3 Norwich City players to have been booked in the Premier League this season. And go.
Max Aarons, Grant Hanley, and Brandon Williams.
Yes, well done. Oh,
I've guessed 3 likely.
Well,
2
yeah.
people.
No. I would go through the other answers, but there are more than I thought. Mr. Brigham.
Come on, Dan. Come on, Dan.
You've got a
Doesn't
name.
it make more sense to kind of just relegate the person in by round? So I'm just out of this already.
No.
Let him do it again.
You can redeem yourself.
No. It's my game, my rules. Let's do this.
Come on, Dan. Come on, Dan.
You've got 5 seconds to name 3 players to have featured in 10 or more Premier League games this season. You ready?
Timu.
And go.
Timu Pukki, Tim Krul, Grant Hanley.
Yes, well done. Very good. Points on the board for Mr. Brigham.
Much more calm and collected.
I realise I've given Steve the easy questions and he is Mr. Numbers. So he'll know all the answers and the stats and everything. So, Steve, name
hard
3.
to use his spreadsheet in 5 seconds.
I'm
though.
looking at it
That's-
right now.
Steve, name 3 of Norwich City's goal scorers in all competitions this season. And go.
Timu Pukki, Matthias Norman, and Christos Solis again.
Yes, well done. Very good.
Nice.
Okay, things are going to get this next round is all about ages. So,
Okay.
Michael,
Yes.
name 3 academy products in Norwich's first team squad. Go.
Max Aarons, Andrew Bamidele, Adamida.
Yeah, there we go. You could have also had Angus Gunn and Todd Cantwell, which I
Thanks.
thought was a nice little
Michael.
loophole.
Very good.
If you'd given me
Dan.
6 seconds, I might have done it.
Dan, name 3 first team players who are not academy graduates who are 21 years old or younger. And go.
Christos Cholis is back. He's 22, isn't he? Ooh.
We're done. You could have also had Barley Mumba, Brandon Williams, Billy Gilmore, or Josh Sargent.
Quebec was right, wasn't it? Was Quebec right?
No, 22.
Oh,
Is he 22?
Yeah.
Has he just turned 22?
Is Josh Sargent
I think so.
21?
Yes.
He's 21.
Wow.
Yeah. Okay.
plays like a 31-year-old.
Ooh.
Right.
Or I will say nothing. Steve, I need you to name 3 first team players aged 29 or over. Go.
Oof. Tammy Pookie, Tim Krul, and Michael McGovern. Can I have that?
Yeah. Oh, do we give him that? It's 5.3. You give him that?
Oh,
Yeah,
definitely.
Go on. We'll give it. It'll be good. It'll be good.
Don't get too officious, Ryan. Don't get too officious.
Listen, it's I'm taking control here. Everything's gonna go AWOL.
Can I just say,
Yes.
Ozan Kabak is definitely 21. So carry
Is
on.
he?
Ooh.
Okay, you know what, Dan, you get the point. Hold on, you get the point for that.
What,
Yay!
naming two?
Woo!
Hang on, he only named 2.
No, he named 3, didn't he?
Oh, you
Oh,
give
it's
me
gone
one
wrong
hand,
already.
take it
It's
with the
gone
other
wrong.
hand, Michael.
Look, guys, listen.
I'm just a pedant. That's all. I'm just
As
a pedant.
long as we're having fun.
Oh, we definitely
Are we?
Stretching.
Right. Are we last round? Are we last round, or is it Steve's go? Last round.
You know what? Let's go straight to the whimsical questions
And to
because
think
why not?
I've even prepared some puns as well, and I haven't even got a chance to use those.
Oh, okay. Right. This is the whimsical ones. Michael, name 3 things you may buy on a match day. Go.
Program, hot dog, and
No.
I'm
He's done. He's out of time. He's
I
out
was
of
trying to
time.
be funny, and I couldn't actually be funny. I was trying to say like pride, and I couldn't get it out. A goal is what I should have said. Buy a goal.
Pride would have got such a big laugh as well. It's a real shame it didn't happen. Mate.
My brain, the cogs just seized up.
Dan Brigham, can you please name me 3 complaints you might hear on Canary Call? And go.
We don't hoof it. All our players aren't British, and
I'm going to keep the timer going. This is just fun.
Let's do that. We've got Chris Gorham on tomorrow.
Oh yeah. Awkward.
No, it's fine.
Steve.
We love them.
Steve, name 3 ways in which Norwich City are ruining the sporting integrity of the Premier League. And go.
They don't care enough. They don't spend enough money. They don't sack enough managers. The players are rubbish.
I'll give you that.
Well, that's the one we did best on. That's the one we did best on the whole afternoon.
So many.
Oh
Wow.
dear. Well, that was fun, guys. I'm glad. I did that.
Round of applause for Ryan.
I can't believe
I'm going to clap myself.
For the best produced segment this podcast has ever seen.
Oh,
And
thank you, guys.
I think we're going to do that again.
can I
So
just
do you
say?
want to go
Can
on.
I just say, when I got asked for the 3 central midfielders, my first thought was Alex Tetty. That's how much I was panicking.
Which would throw you, wouldn't you? Your brain would go, "Oh, he's not here. Oh, that's really sad. Oh, I miss him." And that would be your 5 seconds, wouldn't it? And before you know it, you haven't even thought about Kenny McLean. And or Mario.
Oh yeah, Kenny McLean.
Oh yeah.
Mario Vrancic. Dan, do you want to read out a pun or two? Because I feel like you've come with puns.
Because last time I was caught short with this and came up with Chris Caprigorum off the cuff, which I was very pleased with. So this time, I thought I'd come listed with Plutoni Cotti. Pluto.
Ooh.
Okay,
Yes.
we're on space ones.
Yes.
Right,
Yes, space one. Alien Culverhouse, also applicable to other Ians.
Oh, that's really good. Yep.
Yeah.
Martian Peters, Ian Peters. Martian, also space
Yes.
related.
Martin Peters.
As in Martin, not
Martin
Ian
Peters.
Peters.
Yeah,
Yeah.
just the World Cup winner.
It's just you said Ian. Carry on.
Oh, didn't I? Sorry.
Ian Peters.
Ryan's quiz has really thrown me. Stick with me on this one. Nelson Black Holovera. Black Hole.
Okay. Yeah.
No,
yeah.
I like that. I like that.
Oh,
good,
that's my favourite. That is my favourite.
Where's Hula Han Solo? Star Wars.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
And then a final, what I think is a fitting tribute to our just departed manager, In a Galaxy Farke Away, which is also Star Wars related.
Very good. Very
Wow.
good.
Any redemption with those?
That's very good.
Yeah.
More than
I feel
more than
better
enough.
about myself.
That's beautiful. I am now thinking that you probably would have been better off saying Sebastian Solo.
Oh, now you're criticising my puns.
Sebastian Toto.
Hey,
Just
we
saying.
can have more than one Han Solo reference. That is the
is
beauty of
true.
the space puns. Of what is it? Bailey's Comet.
Bailey's comment.
Bailey's
And
comment.
we've got Simi Moon Jackson in the comments as well. So.
Is that the only one?
Have I got to write all these down, haven't I? We're going to
Separate
need
ends
a
of
Hall
the
of
spectrum
Fame.
there.
I've got one. I've got one. Michael
Yes,
Saturner.
Yes.
Michael Saturner. Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
I think Zoe might have said that one a couple
I
of
think
weeks
Zoe
ago.
has said that, but
Hey,
you know, in fairness,
Whoa.
you wouldn't
Well,
have heard
that's
that,
awkward.
and you've said it. So it means it gets a double vote, really.
And double votes are allowed in Bailey's comment. That's another of the beauties of Bailey's comment.
That's definitely one of the rules. I think it's time to put this out of its misery. A bit like Daniel Farke's coaching career at Martin. Hey, what was that? What?
Uranus or Martin?
Uranus or
Martin.
Nussel.
That sounds.
Stick with the ones you prepared.
It almost needs to be censored, that one.
This whole project of doing live videos worked, providing I didn't have to do much editing to the audio, and I'm now feeling, how are we going to end this podcast? But let's just say thank you so much. I have no more words. Get in your Bailey's Comet submissions, your Zodiac Whitbread submissions. I'm pretty sure there's some star signs we haven't got any for yet. Also, I love to hear your stories about you missing a Norwich City game or a goal or a moment because you got caught short, had to go somewhere, all those sort of things. We had some crackers a few weeks ago. Does anyone have any other business?
Just to say that someone, I think it was Spoon Meat, said in the comments that glandular fever is a kissing disease. So that might be how I don't come back.
Then how did your dad get it, Steve? If he did it all
let's not. You might be listening.
Have fun editing this, Michael.
I mean, I've got.
He likes farm animals.
There's nothing. I have nothing left.
I
just need to go to bed. It will make the edit because I'm not editing it. Well, I think if that doesn't sign us off in fitting style, I don't know what does. So it leads me to once again say thank you guys for a wonderful podcast. It's been probably the best night of my post Farke existence. So thank you for that. And I'll leave you to say goodbye on 3, if that's okay, collectively. So go for it. 1, 2, 3.
Bye.
Bye, Michael.
Bye.
There they go. I'm going to mute them all. And with that, they were gone. And it's just me. Remember, you can get in touch with Wits End directly by sending us an email to twitterkers@icloud.com or anything with the hashtag Twitterkers on Twitter. But that is it for this podcast. I hope you've enjoyed it. We'll see you in 24 hours to do another one. Why not? So you can catch that on the audio podcast feed, and we'll also do it live on all of the channels. So keep an eye out. But until next time, that's a wrap.